This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and today we're going to do a comparison smackdown between the iPhone 5S and the Samsung Galaxy Note 3. Now, I think this is one of the weirdest comparisons we've ever done, but a bunch of you have asked for it, so we're going to do it. And you'll see why I think it's so weird when we get down into it. Keep watching and we'll look at them now. Here we have the iPhone 5S, a phone that can stand on its own, literally. Squared off design, obviously, standing right here on the table. Samsung Galaxy Note 3. Both of these are available on all major U.S. carriers, and they're going to be available on some even smaller carriers. First off, price difference. The iPhone starts at $199 on contract. I know most of you who are watching in the U.S. do tend to buy on contract. The Samsung Galaxy Note 3, now this is going to depend a little bit on carrier. In general, it's $299 if you get it on Verizon or AT&T with contract, $350 on Sprint, and with T-Mobile, you know how that goes. You have monthly payment plans instead, or you can buy it for full retail since they did away with contracts. So your Note 3 is going to be $100 more money. Now, you do get a 32 gig internal storage with your Samsung Galaxy Note 3. Only 16 gigs on the iPhone. So if you go up to the 32 gig iPhone, then you're looking at the same $299 on contract, or, oh my God, around $750 off contract for both of these guys. Quite expensive there. But if you stick with the base model of each, then you're looking at $649 for the iPhone, $749-ish for the Galaxy Note 3. Now, some of you are going to say, who cares, that's $100. Well, for some people watching, $100 is a big deal. And they're both awful nice phones, with most flagships costing $199 on contract. Going up to $299 or $350 is kind of a leap. For those of you who are tech enthusiasts, our Galaxy Note 3 here certainly has everything in the kitchen sink, plus a huge 5.7-inch display, so you're definitely getting something for your money there. Next most important thing, operating system. iOS 7 on our iPhone 5S versus Android with TouchWiz enhancement on the Samsung Galaxy Note 3. I can't say enough about this. Some of you really enjoy your iPhones and iOS, and the new updated iOS 7 is pretty cool. You have things like quick access to all sorts of settings there. One big complaint I used to have with iOS was the lack of that. We have our notifications aplenty up there. With Android, we have our notifications up top. Right now it's dying to have me set up the TV remote control there. Widgets on Android right here, your basic icon palette, unchanged from the first iPhone, pretty much there. For those of you who love your iPhone the way it works, maybe you're just feeling a little bit bored, you want to see if the grass is greener in big screen land. I know a lot of people get bored and they try it and they don't make the jump so well. Vice versa, if you're used to Android, the widgets, the extreme customizability there, and you jump to iOS, you might say, I feel a little too walled in on the iPhone. So don't discount that. If you have a preference to the operating system, another big point right there. Now, some of you are just looking for the best phone you can get on either platform, and these would represent two of the best phones. Certainly, there are other fine Android smartphones available, but the Note really stands ahead because it has this crazy big, as I mentioned, 5.7-inch display, full HD display, but it's not too heavy, 5.9 ounces. That does make it 2 ounces heavier than our iPhone. 2 ounces in your pocket, yes, you will feel the difference. That's several keys, for example, difference if you're talking about things you might have in your pocket in terms of weight. Which brings me to the next point, huge difference in size here. Now, even if you're thinking, I'd really like to have a big screen phone, or I'd really like to have a phone that fits in my pocket, those are two very different things, aren't they? What are you really looking for? How big are your hands? Do you have small hands? Do you have small pockets? Do you want something that really is easy to just toss in your pocket, a bag, anywhere? Or do you want the biggest possible screen you can get on a higher end phone? Now, obviously, this is not the biggest screen smartphone. There's a Samsung Galaxy Mega 6.3. It doesn't have the high-end specs, though, for you guys who are looking for kind of the best you can get. And overseas, there's a Sony Xperia Z Ultra 6.4-inch, even almost an inch bigger than this guy, but that's taller than the Kindle Paperwhite 6-inch e-ink reader, so you get the idea how big that is. So among phablets, this is still kind of the gold standard of something that's somewhat manageable. It fits in a large hand like mine pretty well. You don't have to buy a special bag to carry it, that kind of thing. But there's a huge difference in size. As you've probably seen other folks do, the iPhone fits in the display area of this phone. That's how different the size is right there. So given those big differences, that's why I'm surprised some of you are still trying to make up your mind between each of these. But we'll go into more detail and help you figure that out. In terms of hardware, you know what the answer is going to be. In terms of casing hardware, shall we say, and looks. Samsung Galaxy Note 3, it's improved, but it's still pretty much a plasticky looking phone. This is fake chrome right here. The back, we have the white one, obviously. It looks a little better in the black leather, but they've gone with a faux leather look with fake stitching here. It does look better, but the more important thing is it's less slippery and it doesn't show fingerprints, so that's nice. Still doesn't look like a real high-end piece of hardware like the iPhone 5S or the HTC One does, even some of the higher-end Nokia Lumias, and those are polycarbonate plastic too, but you can make something look really nice and rich, or you can make something look kind of like not so much. One benefit of the Samsung design, and you all know that, is the back cover comes off. Every Samsung phone pretty much is something you can open up so you can access the battery, swap in a spare if you need to. You have access to your SIM card slot right there, which all phones give you that. And also you have a micro SD card slot for expanding storage. For those of you who want to carry around a lot of stuff, that's important. Now with the iPhone you can go all the way up to 64 gigs of storage, and you're looking at $399 on contract or $849 off contract. That's a lot of money to pay for storage. This would be the cheaper way to do it, certainly. One thing I want to point out before all of you Samsung or Android fanboys get on my case when I pick on, Samsung materials. Now this allows the phone to be light, but at the same time, this is your back cover right here. See this? Does that make you feel like, wow, man, that's a quality piece of attractive plastic? No, it doesn't. So that's why I pick on some things about Samsung's looks. That said, I don't think this is a bad looking phone by any means. It's just not a frou-frou chic looking, wow, that's a nice fancy piece of hardware there. And now we have the iPhone 5S, which basically is the iPhone 5 in terms of casing. The only thing that's changed is the camera and flash arrangement just ever so slightly on the back here. Available in 3 colors now, as you know. This is called Space Gray here with the black accents. There's also silver that has white glass accents, and then there's the gold one, the much talked about, really more like champagne edition. So you have your choice of 3 different colors there. Don't even have to tell you anymore. Beautiful aluminum casing here, glass, fit and finish like nothing else, perfectly machined every which way. It's a gorgeous piece of hardware. Now, the one thing that's going to make some of you think about that Galaxy Note 3, even if you are an iPhone fan, is this display right here. It's not that it's not a lovely display. It has nice high pixel density, 326 or so, and anything in that range and higher is sharp enough that at normal viewing distance, 7 to 10 inches, you can't see individual pixels. That's what the whole retina word kind of means. So anyway, it's not the sharpness, it's not the colors, because these are beautiful colors. It's good color balance, it's good accuracy, it has great side viewing angles. You can view it outdoors, nice. Those things are awesome and unchanged. You get that same 4-inch Retina display, but you get that same 4-inch Retina display. If you're starting to feel like 4 inches is just too small for you, particularly if you view a lot of desktop web pages, if you watch a lot of videos, and so, it'd be a lot more immersive on 5.7 inches or even 5 inches. You're right, it would be. 1136 by 640 pixels right here. So for build quality, clearly it's a win for the iPhone. You're not going to be surprised by that. For display, it gets to be more complicated, and it depends on what you want. It's really hard to argue with a full HD 5.7-inch display, but I'll give you a couple of counterpoints. It is still Super AMOLED. It is still pentile matrix. Now, Samsung has really fine-tuned the pentile matrix, so you don't see color haloing on text anymore, so that's a good thing. Everything looks nice and sharp. Super AMOLED has exaggerated colors and very rich blacks. A lot of people like the exaggerated colors, and there are settings. If you watch our full review, you can see you can choose between different color balance settings to either accentuate the vividness of colors or to try to tone them down a little bit. Even though the Galaxy Note 3 has improved brightness for outdoor visibility, even with that kicking on, it's still kind of muddy. Like if you're using it to take photos outdoors, you're going to have some trouble seeing it. The iPhone is still one of the most viewable outdoors. And there's a little gotcha with the Samsung. It only kicks into that super bright outdoor mode if you actually do go outdoors in bright sunlight and you have auto brightness turned on. They don't want to leave it on super bright all the time because I guess they're afraid the battery would just get tanked really quickly. And I don't use auto brightness myself because I find it's too dim for most other settings. So I go outside, I say, I can't see my phone. I try to muddle through and see the auto brightness setting, tap on it, and then, I can kind of see it then. So this one, it depends on you in the end. In terms of, what do you want? Do you want the really big display? You watch a video on a 5.7-inch screen, you go, whoa, man, that's like nothing else. Or do you want something that's very viewable outdoors, really sharp, nice text, good for reading ebooks? I'd still prefer IPS displays for reading ebooks, and that would be the iPhone. And now to give you an idea of what it's like to watch videos on each of these and the size that you're working with, well, here you go. We got the same video, obviously, playing on both of these, and you can see what a difference in size, huh? Wow. But you can also see that even though these are both set to maximum brightness right now, that the iPhone is brighter. So there you've seen the video experience, and I know I had the speakers turned down pretty quiet, but both of these have speakers that fire from the bottom, and they're about equally as loud, which is funny. You think the Note 3 might be loud because it's a giant phone, but actually it's not particularly loud. Both of these are mono speakers. Both of these have good audio quality out through the headphone jack, and they both can do Bluetooth out as well. Now, how about speed and performance? This one gets a little sticky already because you probably have heard that Samsung cheating a little bit on the benchmarks. They detect every major benchmark program, and they do a little tweaking there. They raise the thermal clocks on there. They make sure that the phone runs a little bit faster than it might normally, a little bit warmer, just so you get better benchmarks. So we're going to avoid the absolute numbers here at this point. Let me just say that you've already watched the iPhone 5S review, and Apple so far has not been found to cheat on benchmarks, and their dual-core A7 CPU in here, clocked at a modest 1.3 gigahertz, has outperformed the Qualcomm Snapdragon 800 that's used in not just the Note 3, but also in the LG G2, some other upcoming phones, the Sony Xperia Z1, for example. It's just a remarkable CPU with a quad-core GPU in here, and so in terms of raw benchmarking performance, this guy is faster. Now, that said, both of these are experientially very fast. I've never heard anybody say an iPhone is slow. This is going to be fast, and it's pretty consistent. Generally speaking, you install a bunch of apps on there. They get sandboxed, so they don't really affect the overall performance of the system. Android can be a little bit iffier. Now, I love Android, and that's usually the operating system I use most of the time, but it's amazing how apps can mess with your performance a little bit more, so that's something to keep in mind. You have to be a little bit more technical in general to keep your Android smartphone running as well as it might, especially if you're a real app hound, you install a lot of software, that kind of thing. But right here, we have a fast, responsive phone as well, even with Samsung TouchWiz on top, something that has been generally a little bit of a performance bogged down kind of problem, like the Samsung Galaxy S4. Some people complained about lag, though mine has been pretty good overall. This one so far has not been laggy. Granted, we've only had this for 2 weeks. It might take a while before it starts to gum up a little bit, but so far it's been pretty good. And given the fact that that has 3 gigs of RAM versus just a gig of RAM in our iPhone here, you've got a lot more memory to run applications, and you need that because we have so much custom software going on here, including all of that TouchWiz. Here's the thing, with the iPhone, it's about simplicity. We don't get a lot of added-on features. We got the Touch ID fingerprint sensor, so you can unlock your phone using your fingerprint or make iTunes App Store purchases that way. But with Samsung, we have all sorts of stuff here. And again, this means, you know, the phone's catered to sort of different people. Do you want something that's simple and expedient and does the basics very easily? That would be your iPhone. Do you want something that's really a replacement for your tablet, your laptop, your computer, and has all sorts of capable software on it? That would be Samsung. Even if you don't like TouchWiz so much, and I'm not a huge TouchWiz fan, I have to say that this thing is like a computer in your pocket. I mean, we've got the split window multitasking, for example. We can have maps over here, and then we can drag gallery over here, and we can resize these as we see fit. So I want this window to be bigger, I can drag that up, I can drag that one down. You can even share some data between applications, and there's quite a few apps that are right there available. Your email, your Gmail, your contacts, your obviously the maps, file manager, S-Note, scrapbook, Samsung's video player. So that's pretty handy too. And then there's another way you can bring up some more applications, and that's using the pen, but it's kind of weird. You actually click Air View on the pen, then you draw a rectangle, you can get some little multitasking floating widgets for things like YouTube and calculator and all that kind of thing. And speaking of the pen, the hallmark of the Note series of products, you see we pull out the pen. By default it gives us the AirView launcher. We can go into S-Note to make notes. We can do scrapbooking, which means you can pull content from all sorts of things and put it on a page. We can use find function by writing things with the pen, and we have pen window, which takes a screenshot that you can make notes on. So for somebody who does like to take handwritten notes, for example, this can be very handy. If you work with alternative languages, say you're writing out kanji or something like that, this can be very handy. For you artists, indispensable, especially with the big 5.7-inch display and pressure sensitivity of this pen right here. You can do some really nice sketching, and there is a variety of programs. There's even Autodesk Sketchbook Pro that's installed on here for Galaxy, which is pretty nice. With the iPhone, it's a capacitive stylus, those kind of fat, stubby things that really are not very satisfying to draw with. I know some artists do, but it's just not nearly the same experience as using this digital pen. When it comes to battery life, you're looking at almost twice the battery capacity in the Note 3, 3200 milliamps versus 1570 milliamps. This has a quad-core CPU that consumes more power than Apple's A7, and it has a much bigger display. With more pixels to push, it needs the bigger battery. Doesn't mean it's going to necessarily mean that the Note 3 runs twice as long as the iPhone, but it will run longer, generally speaking. 3200 milliamps really holds up well, and I've been, with moderate to heavy use, been getting a day and a half on this. You could even stretch it to 2 days with moderate use. With my iPhone, I get a day to a day and a half, so a bit of difference there. Again, obviously, you can swap in a spare battery with the Note, and it'd be handy to have an external battery charger to keep that extra battery charged up. With the iPhone, you have to use external battery packs that plug into the Lightning port on the bottom. Next, we have voice command, and those of you who have watched my review of Samsung's S Voice know that I'm not too impressed with it. It really doesn't listen so well. It doesn't do a good job of recognition. It's funny, I like their translator app a lot, S Translator, but not so much S Voice. It also takes a hit on battery life if you leave it resident running all the time. And on the other hand, we have Siri over here who's been listening and has been refreshing with some interesting prompts over here. Press and hold the home button and you've got Siri, and it generally works pretty well. It does natural language queries nicely. It does voice recognition nicely. I would give Siri the nod still over S Voice. Honestly, on my Samsung phones, I own a GS4 for example, I just stick with Google voice recognition. I don't even use S Voice. And Google's voice recognition is pretty good. It's not up there with Siri yet in terms of natural language queries, but it's getting pretty good. Now let's talk cameras. Up front you get a 2 megapixel camera on the Galaxy Note 3. Very good. We're happy to see higher pixel cameras. The iPhone sticks with a 1.2 megapixel resolution camera up front, but it has those new enlarged pixels, sort of like the HTC One's doing, so it actually makes for some really great quality video chat. Really, really nice. So, you know, it's pretty close as it comes. Also with Apple you get the FaceTime experience, which is honestly quite good. If you're an Apple to Apple person, if you have somebody who has a Mac computer in the house, if you have other iPhones, iPod Touch, iPad, that kind of thing, it's much higher quality video than you'll get on Skype. On the back, we have a 13 megapixel camera here with an LED flash on our Galaxy Note 3. That's nice. I like to see 8 megapixels or higher on a camera. That's one way I was ding the HTC One. That 4 megapixel sensor, even if it had larger pixels, well, it's just not enough if you want higher quality photos for bigger images on web pages, or you're going to use it for printing or anything else. On our iPhone, in fact, we do have an 8 megapixel camera. It has those enlarged pixels on the sensor, though, to let in more light for better low light shots and get somewhat better color rendition. And that, in fact, does work. And we have the new two-tone flash on the back, one amber, one white LED, to try to get more balanced photos when the flash is being used, so you don't have things that look decidedly yellow or decidedly too washed out in white. In practice, they both take excellent photos, but they have a very different approach to doing things. Now, we're going to take a look at our Samsung first. And as you'd expect from a Samsung product, we have features up the wazoo. But you know, I'm not saying that's a bad thing here, because I think they're all very intuitive to use. Shoot a photo, you shoot a video. It's pretty obvious and easy to figure it out. You can tell we're in auto mode right now. There's never any confusion. If you want to switch modes, it gives you this nice little graphical representation of what all these effects mean. So we've got beauty face, best shot, sound and shot, drama shot, animated photo, eraser to get rid of photo bombing things, panorama mode, sports mode, auto mode. All sorts of stuff right there. But wait, there's more. Up here we have ability to switch front and back cameras. No surprise there, but more settings. So for those of you who like a whole lot of granular control over what you're shooting, you've got it here. Not just flash control, but you can choose your resolutions, whether we're doing burst shot mode, face detection, ISO, metering, stabilization. And for video, video stabilization is digital, just like on the iPhone, and that's only available if you're shooting up to full HD. If you can move up to 4K resolution video, and that's another little bonus here, this can shoot 4K video. Video stabilization, it can't do this. Just too much processing power required, nor can you use the front and rear cameras simultaneously anymore if you're shooting in 4K video, which means jumpy 4K video, by the way. But anyway, you can indeed shoot 4K video, and someday when more people have 4K TVs or 4K-ish laptops, ultrabooks like the Samsung ATBook 9 Plus, that could be a bonus right there. It does indeed look sharper and prettier. We've tested on the ATBook 9 Plus, which has a 3200 by 1800 resolution display, and you can see the difference. It's nice. Now with the iPhone, it's always simple. HDR on and off. Both of these have HDR, by the way. We have flash control over here, switching between our cameras. You can do tap to focus if needed, and Right down here you can see we have the different modes. It's sideways now, so we'll turn. You can choose between photo, square video, panorama, slow-mo mode has 120 frames per second, 720p slow-mo. By the way, the Note 3 also has slow-mo. Access to your gallery right here, and then we have effects as well, color effects, not unlike what we saw on the Samsung. But we don't have things like the anti-photo bombing feature. So more features on the Note 3, but which one takes better pictures? And this also depends on what kind of photographer are you. There's no right answer here. Are you somebody who just wants an easy point and shoot? That's going to be the iPhone experience. There's no futzing, there's no changing anything. It generally just takes really good photos and really good video, and particularly it's very good at low light right now. Compared to other cameras on the market, it and the HTC One are really excelling at low light. And I don't mean you're in a really dark black nightclub, just if you're in a kind of darkish room, it can make all the difference. Less noise, more colors, more natural looking. Get more pixels on the Note 3, which can be handy if you're doing something for professional purposes, and more pixels does always help. It doesn't always expose quite as well. There's always been a problem with Samsung's cameras, outdoors, bright light. You get some kind of whiteout going on for brighter areas, but it's not a bad camera either. So again, it really depends on what you want. Do you want all the features? Do you want the simplicity? And almost a great shot every time. Now with our friend the iPhone here, you can take photos while you're shooting video, but you cannot use the front and back cameras simultaneously like you can on the Samsung. And that's actually a really nice touch, because sometimes you want to narrate whatever it is you're showing via the back camera, and you can do that. Put your face in there, smile at whoever's watching. You know, it's great for when you're away from the family. In terms of the basics, these both have LTE, they both have dual band Wi-Fi. You get a Wi-Fi AC on the Samsung, you get BGN on the iPhone. I don't think that's going to be much of an issue now. In 2 years, maybe more people have Wi-Fi AC routers and they'll care about that more. Both have Bluetooth, both have GPS with GLONASS. Samsung has NFC, Apple still does not have NFC. That said, there's not a whole lot going on with NFC right now. The Samsung has an IR blaster with a TV remote control. You can control actually all your home theater gear. With the iPhone, you're going to have to buy a third-party accessory if you want to do that. Voice and data on these both have very good data speeds. We're testing both of these on the AT&T network, and they're neck and neck in terms of data speeds. Voice quality, these are both excellent voice phones. I might say the iPhone sounds slightly more natural, but that's probably because we don't have the big microphone separation that we do when holding the phone to your head. When you've got a big phone like the Note 3, it's going to have to do a little bit more noise canceling because your mouth's probably not going to be very close to the microphone. But either way, honestly, both excellent voice phones. So that's the iPhone 5S versus the Samsung Galaxy Note 3. As I said, one thing I can say for both of these is they're basically the top-of-the-line phone for the various ecosystems we're looking at. iOS here, or Android. Here you're living large. You've got every feature under the sun. You've got a digital pen. Here, this is Apple's latest and greatest iPhone with the fastest CPU yet, the touch fingerprint sensor, and more. Which one's for you? Hopefully you have a better idea now. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to watch our video reviews of both of these phones, read our written reviews on Mobile Tech Review, and hit that like button.